Hello, everyone. Welcome to Queerly Recommended, the podcast where we recommend queer books, films, TV shows, and more. I'm Kris Bryant, a contemporary romance writer for Bold Strokes Books, and this week I'm recommending a sapphic novel.
And I'm Tara Scott, I review sapphic fiction at the Lesbian Review and Smart Bitches Trashy Books, and this week I'm recommending a One Night to Forever sapphic romance novel. As always, thank you to all of you who are supporting us through our Ko-fi and on our Substack. There's links to both in the show notes. And if you haven't told a friend about us, why haven't you?
Right. Come on.
Please tell them. We're want
nice
to be in their ears as well. All right, Kris, what's been going on with you lately?
Well, last time I talked about the football cards, the shows I'm going to. I had one scheduled, and then I got a second opportunity, which is sooner than the one that I am doing on the 6th, and now I'm doing it this coming weekend. So I have my whole entire living room is covered with boxes of football cards, and I'm just mad. I'm stop. So I have football cards all over my living room floor, and I'm pricing each one individually. And I have about 1,000, like roughly. So that's what I've been doing for about 2 weeks, and I think I'm going to get it done hopefully by tomorrow. So
well, that's good. Is Orange Kitty getting into them?
No, no, not really. Orange Kitty has no interest in it. Like, just wants to sleep on the couch on the soft blanket. So
okay.
And I'm surprised Orange Kitty is not back here while we record this, but no. I'm pretty sure if I went into the living room, Orange Kitty would still be on the couch where I left him.
That's pretty cute.
Yeah. And yesterday I went to a Chiefs game. Yay! And we won in the last 3 seconds of the game, literally. That's 2 games back to back now. We won within within a second or two of the game ending. I know! I'm so stressed.
I was going to say, that must be, heart-stopping for some people.
The guy in front of me couldn't even watch. It came down to a field goal, and the guy in front of me couldn't watch. He, had his head down. I was in the suites. We had suite seats. Suite? Yeah. No, the actual suite. Hey. Where they had cushions, and it's just really nice. And the guy in front of me was just he was just so stressed out by this. But we won, and everybody stayed. 80,000 people left the stadium at the same time.
Whoa.
I'm sure it was a fire hazard on some level, but yeah, so it was a good time. And I saw a pickup truck go out of a parking spot and just ran over a Tesla. Literally, banged it up and kept going. And I'm like, are you seriously gonna leave? And my dad's kind of pulling me away from these guys because it's a truck full of, it's a huge, F-350 or whatever. Who takes that? Who takes that to a park? Yeah. Anyway, you should drive a small car when you go to a game at a stadium where those parking spots are very small. So I feel bad, but then somebody reminded me that Tesla records, the car has a camera on all the time.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did not know that.
Oh, all right. So maybe it's been taken care of anyway.
I'm hoping, because I was you're just going to leave like that? And the guys just, it was 4 or 5 guys in this truck, and it wasn't very smart on my part. So, sad that I have to worry about things like that. I have to worry about the safety of my father and me. And, my sister and her boyfriend were ahead of us, so they weren't aware of it. But anyway, so, we won, and it was fun. Had a lot of fun. Yay! Should I tell the story about what happened when I got home?
You know what? You gotta
it's hideous.
You gotta follow your heart. It is, but also it's a pretty good story.
It is. So,
I'm not gonna lie.
All right, I'm super excited about the game. I'm yeah. So I go home. I literally live 3 miles from the stadium. I'm pumped up, and we're still, you can still hear fireworks. Everything's great. And so I sit down on the couch to watch the Sunday night game. And I let my hair down because I had it up. It was just sweaty and gross. It was super hot. It was 87 or 88 degrees at the game. Thankfully, I wasn't in the sun, but it was still hot. So I let my hair down a little bit out of the clip, and then there was something in my hair. I was like, what is in my hair? And I pulled it out, and this is awful. somebody like spit or threw or whatever a fingernail, and it wasn't even like a fake nail. It was like somebody's chewed off nail was stuck in my hair.
You know, this is the second time I've heard this story today. It doesn't get better.
It doesn't get better. I was like, I know. So I immediately showered.
You're in the and you were in the expensive seat section too.
I know.
Also tells me it's like, even when people have privilege and whatever, they're still really gross. Really, really gross.
And, you know, it could have happened anywhere. It could have been when I was at the bathroom or when I went to go get drinks or food. It could have been anywhere. But, oh my God, like, so.
Any of those places, somebody would have had to, like, whip it on purpose, though.
Or, like, flick it. I know. This, like, this has taken up so much time in my brain. Like, I don't know that I'll recover, but it was horrible. So I showered last night, and then first thing this morning, I, like, showered and washed my hair twice.
You have to.
Yeah, it was awful. So I'm hoping that everything's out of my hair now. So that
it probably is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is too. So anyway, that has been my life. What's going on with you? Anything new and exciting?
Well, I'm going to be participating in an event. The Lesbian Review is putting on an event on the 26th of October, and it is called Frozen Attitudes Melted Hearts Ice Queen Weekend. So if anybody wants to come and hang out, there's a couple of panels that authors going to be talking on, but I'm on the one that's called Ice Queen Superfans. Yay. And so it's a deep dive into the trope. It's from the fan perspective. We're going to talk about why we love it, the psychology of the Ice Queen. Would we date them in real life? I feel like that might have been a spoiler for my response. Listen, I love to read about them, and I am married to a teddy bear, and maybe that says enough.
Scary. They can be scary.
So scary. So if you want to come, you can see me. I'm going to be on there. Jenna, also, who's one of the reviewers at the Lesbian Review. And there's also authors who have written some of the best Ice Queens I've ever read, including Rosalind Sinclair, Rachel Spangler, Anna Burke, and Lola Keeley. Oh, there's some great. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. That's pretty much it, because I've just been doing a lot of reading.
Yeah, lately. Good. We want you to read.
I know, right? So yes. I guess let's roll into the next section, and then I can tell you what I've been doing. Kris, what have you been reading or watching lately?
Well, I'm almost finished with the second season of Sense8. The first season I recommended last podcast. By the way, the acting hasn't gotten any better, but it's still captivating. I mean, I'm still into it. And I think, like I mentioned before, there's only 2 seasons and maybe a movie. Or the final episode is a really long episode. So I'm probably 3/4 of the way done with that. I started Prison Break from way back when. And it's kind of interesting because some of the actors on Prison Break are in shows that I've seen, I say recently, but they're in different shows that I recognize. And they were so young in Prison Break.
Oh, yeah.
So it's super.
Like 15 or 20 years ago?
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
It was a while ago. I don't know how long ago it was, but it's been a bit. And so, like, the first episode or the first season I thought was a little bit long, but it was interesting. It kept my interest. And then I got to the second season, and it's just so ridiculous. Like, I can't watch it anymore. Like, the second season is like, stop already. Bad choices, bad decisions, time after time again. And I just can't. I'm done. So I'm no longer watching that.
Isn't it from back when there used to be like 24 episode seasons of things?
Right. And it's like, and it's so drawn out and it's duplicated. You know, I don't know how to do it. You know how TV shows back in the day used to, like, not recap, but they would kind of extend. Like, the next episode would be like, I don't know. It's like there's at least 10 extra minutes in every episode that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We're filling time.
Exactly. And I don't like that. I also started watching because it was on the list, and I needed something while I'm doing my football cards, while I'm pricing them, so that I don't really need to pay attention. So I started Fear the Walking Dead because I'd forgotten how it started.
Oh, so you've gone back to the beginning.
So I went back to the beginning of Fear the Walking Dead, not The Walking Dead, but the first spinoff of the show. And it's I watched the whole first season. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't remember this and I don't remember that. So it was fun. It was fun to go back.
Good.
And then to all my Earpers out there, I did watch Winona Earp Vengeance. I did watch the movie. And I want to watch it again. I think I was slightly distracted, but I wanted to see it again and see how they're almost like family, you know? You've been around them and you talk about them online and the proverbial you, go to like the different shows. Like I've been to several Earp shows, conferences, Earpapalooza, anything like that, expos. And it's just, it felt good seeing them again. We'll get into it. I'm sure it'll be a recommendation once I go through it again. But, you know, the queer rep is always there and I love that. Still feel good. Yeah, I will probably talk about it maybe next time. I'll get into it a little bit.
Watch it again first.
I'm going to watch it again first. I'm going to get all my ducks in a row. And because I have feelings. I have a lot of feelings about it. And I didn't have enough time to explore those feelings.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm going to give it a little bit of time. What about you? What have you been reading or watching?
Okay, so Drag Race Global All-Stars continues. It's been pretty good, although it's very interesting. It feels like, I don't know if it's RuPaul himself or if it's the production is really favoring the queens that we've seen before on the franchises that he hosts versus the other queens. Like there's a queen from Mexico that I think is incredible and just keeps ending up in the bottom, and I'm like, why?
Oh, that sucks.
What? And it doesn't feel deserved each time. And like I think the queens from Australia and the US and the UK are incredible, but like, come on, you brought all these other queens on for a reason. Like, can we be a little more fair to them?
Right.
And then I went back and rewatched All Stars Season 2.
Oh, wow.
Because Willem and Alaska, they're two former Drag Race queens. Well, Alaska won that season. And I think it's fair enough to say, like, yes, it's a spoiler, but it's been out for like a decade or something like that. So if you didn't see it by now, sorry, Alaska wins. But they're recapping the show on their podcast, Race Chaser. And so it's been very fun to like rewatch, but also listen to the recaps and hear sort of the behind the scenes and also the take on like how the show has changed in the years since then. So I've really been enjoying that and definitely recommend, like, if you like Drag Race and you don't listen to Race Chaser, like rewatch All Stars 2 and go listen to these episodes because it's just so good. I read a Devil Wears Prada fanfic called Just One Good Reason. And I liked this one a lot. It's quite different from a lot of the other Devil Wears Prada fics because Andy is never Miranda's employee in this situation. And there's been some playing with a lot of, like, I think Miranda stays around the age that she is in the movie, but her daughters, instead of being 11, they're in college. And one of them brings home her best friend who she has a crush on. And guess what? It's Andy. Woo! But it's a soulmate story. And so, of course, Andy doesn't have a crush on Cassidy. She's never had a crush on Cassidy, but she and Miranda immediately fall for each other. But there's this like, oh no, my daughter has the biggest crush on you and she'll never forgive me and we can't do this. And it's like so angsty. It is an angstapalooza, but it also, I don't know, it reminded me that I actually do like angst if it's done well and if the payoff is great. And the payoff is really, really fabulous for this one. So, and it's like 106,000 words.
Oh
and
my goodness.
I read it in a weekend. I couldn't put it down. So that's what I did last weekend. And then the weekend that ended yesterday, I read Strange Attractors by Anna K. Wren. I missed this one when it came out. Like I sort of kind of, like I saw that it came out, but for whatever reason, I didn't pick it up. But I heard her talk about it at the GCLS conference because she was on the Ice Queen panel. And she said something that really intrigued me. And it was something along the lines of like, I don't know, like, is she an ice queen or is she just a professor?
I remember when she said it.
Right? It was so good. I was like, ooh, fuck it. Ooh, I have to read this one. And what I didn't realize at the time when I said I would like to read this book is that it's actually a psychological thriller, which is not my typical. I'm a sweet baby angel.
Right,
I mostly read
are.
romance. But I'm really glad that I read it because it's very interesting. It's not an easy read, but it's all told from the perspective of Sonia's story. She's a tenured professor at this university in small town North Carolina. Her life is very, very, like, very ordered. Everything has to be, like, she is the boss of her life. She is in extreme control of everything happening around her, and she's kind of an asshole about it. And everything is about, like, name brand for her. Like, it keeps listing, like, what brand her shoes are, what brand her shirt is, what brand her skirt, because clearly it's important to her because she had this really terrible kind of crappy, poor upbringing. She has no friends and keeps everybody at arm's length because she's incredibly demanding. She's often rude. She's sometimes cruel. And then she meets this new junior professor named Crystal, who's just, like, very outgoing and lovely. And it's like, what do I even go away? What do I even do with you? And then she starts getting these threatening notes and emails, and she sees someone on her back porch. And so, like, her life gets very strange then. And she goes from being just, like, she's very cold and off-putting, but then she also becomes increasingly suspicious of everyone and everything happening around her. And she starts to snap more often. And she's, like, yelling at students. And yet, like, it's very, very interesting. And so the book is, like, her trying to figure out what is happening. And also, what does she even do with this Crystal person? Like, is she going to let her in? Because no matter how rude she is, Crystal sort of keeps coming back. It's not a romance. It has a romantic element. And so the way I think of it is, like, okay, yes, it's a thriller, but really at its heart, I think it's a character study. And it's a study of this person who, she's deeply damaged in a lot of ways. And we find out about her various traumas. And some of them are quite difficult to read, which is why I say it wasn't the easiest read. And she is really off-putting. So it took me a couple of tries. Like, I tried reading it before and I couldn't get into it, but something kept telling me I need to come back to this. What I think was funny is Lee Winter, it's very rare for authors to write a review of somebody else's book on Goodreads, but she loved this one so much that she actually wrote a Goodreads review for it. And she called Sonia the iciest ice queen who ever did ice, which I think is a great line, of course. And I kind of I actually disagree with it, only because I think Ice Queen is not strong enough a descriptor. So I'd like to come up with something new, which is a knife queen.
Wow.
I think she is a knife queen because she's so vicious with her words. She's basically stabbing and slashing at people rather than icing them out.
I love it.
Thank you. I was tempted to say razor blade queen, and I was like, nope, knife queen is
knife
punchier.
Queen sounds good.
I like it better. As the book goes along, and we do learn more, like, it's not like you get all of her trauma right away. It sort of slowly comes out over time, and then her behaviors become more, like, it's easier to understand why she's the way she is, even though she doesn't really become likable for a really long time. Which is kind of funny because I know that, like, if this character were a real person, she would probably want to give me shit for asking if I would question the likability of a male professor. But, like, yes, I would, because I only want people around me to be sorry, I want to like the people around me. I really liked the Crystal character. I thought we don't get to see her perspective, but she's this, like, open, loving, outspoken person. She knows her worth, and she actually does have strong boundaries. She reminds me of this meme I saw once that was, like, something along the lines of, like, love with your whole heart and have boundaries like a motherfucker. And I think that's who this character is. And so it ends up leading to this very interesting dance between her character and Sonia's, and where they end up at the end. So, like I said, it took a few tries, but I'm glad I stuck with it. It was a great way to spend my weekend. I think there's something very special about her and her story. I don't know if I could read it again, because some of it is quite difficult, but it was very rewarding, and it was absolutely worth the time. So, I mean, for people who like thrillers, home run, go pick it up. If you love character studies, go pick it up. It's great. Yeah, that's what I did with my weekend.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So, Kris.
Yes.
What's your official recommendation this week?
My official recommendation is In Bloom by Kat Jackson. I mentioned that when we were at GCLS, I bought a handful of books, and I have been working through them. and In Bloom was one of the books. And it kind of threw me because on the website, on Bella Books website, it's marked as a romance. And kind of like what you were saying, there's romantic elements to this book, but it's really about overcoming great obstacles in two people so that they can open up and allow love to come in. So it's more of a, like you were saying, character journey, personal journey, that kind of story. It's so different than, it's a different type of romance. I use the bunny ears, the romance, because it's not like anything that, I've written. It's nothing like anything you've,
read.
Nothing. Yeah, you have read something like
Definitely
this.
like nothing.
And
like
you've
what I've
read like
written.
everything in the world. But so we'll just get into this here. Let me read the synopsis.
That's great.
Okay. Nicole Callahan is certain she has endured the worst heartbreak possible, and she's in no hurry to dive back into the tumultuous waters of love. She insists that she absolutely is fine being alone, but a part of her still wonders. To Avery Pullman, owner of a flower shop filled with thorns less prickly than her ex's, the idea of love is just a disaster waiting to happen. She sees no reason to invite pain in, especially when she's still tending to fresh wounds on her heart. Neither expects nor wants the tiny spark that ignites the moment their eyes lock. If they get too close to it, they might each have to face an uncomfortable truth that they've never really known true love before. And that might be more terrifying than any heartbreak. Yeah, so this is not a book you can read in one sitting.
Okay.
It is not. It is so incredibly heavy with emotions. Like both characters have put love on the back burner because they're still wondering if they're good enough for love. Like, do they even deserve love? So Kat Jackson has a way with words. We all need to read more Kat Jackson. She has a way with words that just shreds your heart. Like, I can just go along in the story and all of a sudden one line, it's just so powerful. And it happens several times. And this is one book. I mean, I can't remember having to put down a book so many times before because it either hit home or it struck me that somebody is going through so much pain or has had experienced so much grief before. And I think that if you've experienced either side, grief, trauma, whatever, this will really resonate with you. Trigger warnings, yes, but I feel like that should be something that it's part of the story. And my thing is just like, let's just give it a chance. So this book is not a book you can't put down because you have to know what happens. It's the kind of book that you're afraid of what happens or doesn't. It's an angsty story. It is an angsty story because you want to know, but also you want the characters to go through their own growth.
Yeah.
And it's just, and you see it and you're there right there with them and you feel it. You think about how many people in this world really have this kind of grief and trauma. And it's just, it really does. It hits home. And I just thought it was such a beautiful book. Like, this book really is a heart punch. Like, there, that's my saying. You have knife queen, I have heart punch.
Yeah.
It's a heart punch. So did you ever read the book Catch-22? Tell me yes.
I started reading it once.
See, okay. So Catch-22 is one of my favorite books. I know that sounds weird.
Really?
Right.
Okay. Tell me more.
I know. So in this story, I was so mad for 6 months after I finished that book. I literally was angry. And I was angry so much because every single time the lead character was getting close to getting the missions, so that he can leave the war, they added more on. Oh, you need 5 more before you can quit. Oh, you need 6 more. Oh, we're doing 12 more missions. And it was so frustrating. And you're like, why did the writer do this? Like, why did he do this? And it's exactly what you wanted as a writer to have your readers experience, that feeling that the same, it's going on with the character too. You're so frustrated. And then I didn't realize how brilliant it was until 6 months later. I'm like, shit, now I get it. Like, it took me that long to get it. And this is that kind of book too. I feel like there's just so much. And it's just that feeling of you're so frustrated. It's like, you are the perfect person for this person. And you are the perfect person for this person. And you just want to help them. You want to shake both their shoulders and say, just get there. But they have so much to work through first before they get there. there is some humor in it. Like, don't get me wrong. It's just a very heavy book. I guess, so here's what I think. They've been comfortably numb for so many years. I think the characters are in their mid to upper 30s. I honestly, I couldn't tell you how old they are, but that's the feeling I get. And they have really good support friends, really good friends, family that support them. Of course there's we all have some friends and family that we could probably do without, but you can't always get away with it. Yeah. So is there a happy ending? Yes. Is it unicorns and rainbows? No. It's about personal growth, healing inside, and really the emotional journey of two people who need to work on themselves before allowing themselves to open up to each other. And I think Kat Jackson did a brilliant job with this book. I think she needs more love from this community. So I will personally recommend this book to anybody who wants something a little bit more and deeper than maybe what you pick up and you just like read fast, like overnight or something. I know some people who can go through a book in like a day, kind of like you, or 2 days. Oh, but yeah, this is just this was a lot. It is a very draining book, but it's a very rewarding book too. You feel good at the end.
Did you find yourself drawn towards one of the characters more than the other?
I felt attached to both characters for different reasons.
Oh,
they're yes, exactly. So for one character, I related in the grief aspect, and the other character, the whole, am I good enough, or there's a couple of things, like, can I really shut out my past? I think we've all had like our first loves. We all remember our first loves. Yeah. Right? We do, don't we? Okay. I think that's something we'll always remember. Yeah, whether it was good or bad. But... yeah. Aw, that's so sweet.
I cut
well, the rest of the world.
Listen, I did not stick around for relationships that I was not. I cut them loose. I had no patience.
I'm done with this. Well, a lot of people have dated a lot. Sure. A lot. I mean, So what happens is,
a lot have done it more than me, for sure.
Right, for sure. And so, you fall in love. Even in high school, your first love. Yeah. No, yes, maybe. No.
I have crushes, but no.
No, yeah. So my first love, we're still friends. Like, we talk. Aww. I know, isn't that sweet? We still talk.
Love that.
Yeah, but it's just it's a different type of love. And so and it's kind of hard to shut out a part of your past that maybe is hurting you in your present day. And so it's just kind of like people realizing, how to brush things off to be able to like start a journey forward, the forward thinking. Here we go. Forward progress in love, forward not looking backward. And that's so hard for a lot of people. And I think Kat did a great job. And actually there was this one scene that was hilarious, and I had to reach out. I texted her and I'm like, what? And she's like, no, you read that wrong. And I went back and I reread it because I was sneak reading at work. It's an actual book. And I was sneak reading and I read something wrong, and I read it really wrong. And I'm like, you did not do that. And she's like, I didn't. She goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. Let me look. I'm like, oh, sorry. I was angry at her. She's like, this is horrible. What are you doing? And she's like, no, you're wrong. And like the whole thing was hilarious afterwards. She's like, don't read at work. And it is a bad idea to read a book like this at work anyway. Great book, great writing. Absolutely. I love the writing, and I love Kat's humor. I love how quickly she goes from humor to absolute, like, almost devastation. Like, it's so quick. Yeah. But it's so well written. So I recommend that. That is my recommendation. What about you? What is your official recommendation?
So mine is Rachel Lacey's new book, View from the Top. This is a one night to forever romance. And I think it's kind of funny. Do you remember when I was talking about Informed Consent by Ray Spangler? And I was like, I haven't read a one night to forever in years. And then I go from like, I haven't read any
0
years
to like
to 2 in less than a month. Like, what? But I did, and it was great. I loved it. So Diana Devlin she's this like high powered career woman. She's so close to her goal. She can just see it. She just has to become CEO, like the chief operating officer of her family's hotel company. And then when she takes that, she's in line to be CEO when her dad retires. One of the things that Diana does to really set herself up as like, I should obviously be next in line, is she's purchasing these like small boutique hotels kind of all across the US to add as this like unique little line of these just great little local gems. And so she's on a work trip to smalltown Vermont, and the day before she's going to go check out this little hotel, she decides, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to go do this hike. I haven't hiked for a long time, but I used to like hiking. And it turns out she decides to do like the most difficult hike in the area. And she gets lost and like runs out of water and is like panicking. And then she sees this artist, and the artist not only is kind and helps her out, she's also like really pretty. And so like, hey, what if they blow off some steam together before she tries to make this purchase? So Emily Jansen is the artist. She's stuck in her hometown. She works at an inn that her grandmother's own. And she's hoping that someday she'll be able to support herself with her art. And so a one-night stand is not something that she would typically do, but it seems to be what she needs. But of course, the next day, they both find out Diana's there in town to try to buy Emily's grandmother's inn. So
who does that to grandmothers?
Well, the grandmothers are ready to retire, and they didn't tell Emily that. So, and I don't feel like that's not very spoilery. That's very early in the book.
Good.
But it does kind of throw everything up in the air for Emily, who's like, what do you mean? This is my home. This is our home. This is what do you mean? And it really kind of like throws everything off for her, because she is so stuck kind of to that area. And Emily wants to protect their small town too. Like, she doesn't want corporate greed to be a thing that kind of like comes in and ruins the inn. And Diana, of course, like, she has goals. She wants to be CEO of this company. This has to happen. Can they make it work? Yes, because this is a romance novel. So I've probably read, I think, about 5 books by this author now. This is my favorite. For sure. Nice. Hands down. I think it's her best one. And I think let's just get right into it by talking about that one night stand. It is 2.5 chapters long.
Wow.
Right? I saw her say on social media something about like, it's my longest sex scene ever. I think this is my spiciest book. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's your spiciest book by far. Holy shit. But also, like, normally I would be very skeptical if somebody said there was a sex scene that long in a contemporary romance. Like, how, like, really? Like, what's it going to do? How good's it going to be? When it comes to sex writing, I feel like it has to do something. It has to be either propelling the story or the romance or something. And especially with it being that early in the book, that's where I get even more like, come on, is it going to be there just to be hot, or is it going to do something else? And with this one, I loved it because it gave us a really early view into who Diana and Emily are. Yes, Diana is somebody who would have one night stands. Emily's not really like that. And within the scene, they each decide to do certain things that are not typically in line with how they would behave in the bedroom. And because of that, like, yes, we see them enjoy themselves and each other, but also we see them like really stretch outside of comfort zones. They're challenging themselves. And so for me, that really elevated it. And it turned it into something that was quite special. And I think it was smart to have a sex scene that was that like long and well written and important early on, because it takes a while before they bang again. Like, it's a long it's kind of, after that, it's a slow burn. And because there is this like, wait, I'm sorry, you want to do what to my grandmother's inn? It almost makes it like, I know I called it a one night to forever, but it's almost like a one night to enemies, sort of, to friends, to lovers situation. And I loved it every step of the way. I think they each have a very interesting arc to their characters. They both have some growing to do, because Diana, she is really forced to reconsider, what is it that she actually wants? Is her career actually everything? Is this role as CEO actually everything? Does she need to maybe think a little more broadly if she wants to be like a happy and fully realized person? And in Emily's case, like I said, she doesn't really leave her small town. She's actually never completed that hike that Diana got lost on first day in town. Emily's never made it to the top. It's like literally it's called View from the Top because it's like, can you hike to the top of this? They call it a mountain, but I'm guessing if you can hike it in a day, it's not a real mountain. But I also live near the Rocky Mountains, so it's like there's mountains and then there's mountains. Not to be like a snob about mountain, but Emily hasn't even made it to the top because she's so nervous about it. She has this fear of failure, of growing, of all kinds of things, and so she has to decide: does she actually want her life to be so tiny that it's like the size of a postage stamp, or can she kind of like be brave? And I think they complement each other really well on these journeys, and they both embrace this mantra that I love, and it's just fuck fear, which I think is something that like we all could use. There's days where we could all stand to just say fuck fear and do the thing that's hard. And so I really like that. The other thing that I liked, and this is mostly just me being a nerd, I like that this book is health conscious because I always call this out because I love it. But they check in with each other about STI testing before they have sex, which again, wonderful. Safer sex practices have been in opposite sex romances for many, many, many years. I still think there's a ways to go in at least showing some kind of consciousness and awareness in our sector. So I love it whenever I see it because frankly, there are young people that they are still learning from reading romances. So let them learn. And grown-ups, it doesn't hurt to get checked too. And
Thank you.
Right? And then also at one point, Diana gets sick and she actually takes a COVID test. And then when Emily brought her, like Emily hears that she's sick, and so she brings her food and she wears a mask to help her out. And for a while, I wasn't sure how I would feel about like seeing COVID or the possibility of COVID in a romance. It felt very like, no, but I actually think it worked well in this case because we are like, COVID's not gone. Obviously, ask anybody who went to GCLS this year.
Thanks, COVID. Thanks, GCLS.
I liked that Diana was testing. Like, I like that there's this, especially when you put the two together, the checking in about STI testing and then also taking a COVID test and masking when you're being around somebody. Like, for me, there are these small moments of consideration and just like consciously checking in and taking care of each other's health. So yeah, I had a really hard time putting this book down. This is definitely not it has some, like, the characters are dealing with things that are heavy for them, but it's not conveyed in a way that I personally felt was heavy. So it is a breezier read than yours. But for me, I think it's going to be a perfect comfort reread. So it went right to my to-reread folder. It's one that I can absolutely see myself going back to if I'm having a really bad week or I just need something that feels like a warm hug. It's going to be this. And I also think it's going to be one of my top 10 books of the year. So
wow.
I know. View from the Top by Rachel Lacey. I love Diana and Emily, and I hope we get to see more of them in a future book. That is all for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do on your podcast app. If you have a friend that you haven't told about the show that you think wants to hear about any of the stuff we talked about today, please send it to them. Or if you want to support us, there's links in our show notes to our coffee, our newsletter sign up, or you can rate and review us on whatever podcast app you're listening on.
Or if you want to connect with us on your favorite social media sites, we have links in the show notes for that as well. Or you can just search for Queerly Recommended or email us at podcast@queerlyrecommended.com. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
To the shortest episode ever that we've ever done ever.